You wake up to the sound of golden bells and incense burning in chambers lined with lapis lazuli. Your first breath carries the scent of myrrh, lotus blossoms, and the distant Nile. Your father isn't just any man. He's the living god of Egypt, the divine incarnation of Horus, the bridge between mortal earth and eternal sky. You're born into absolute divinity, but that divinity comes with the weight of an entire civilization. Your cradle is carved from sacred cedar inlaid with gold and precious stones. Outside your nursery, priests chant your name to ensure the gods favor your arrival. From your earliest memories, you're surrounded by the rituals of divine kingship. Servants prostrate themselves when you enter rooms. Your every movement is watched for signs of godly favor or displeasure. High priests study your infant behaviors for omens about Egypt's future. This is your normal. This is your birthright. Your childhood is spent learning that you are both human and divine, that your blood carries the essence of gods, that your words can command the Nile to flood or withhold its waters, that your death will determine whether Egypt prospers or falls into chaos. Your tutors aren't ordinary teachers. They're the highest priests of Memphis and Thebes. They teach you hieroglyphics before you can properly speak. They show you how to read the stars, interpret dreams, and commune with deities. You learn that pharaohs don't rule Egypt. They are Egypt. Every breath you take keeps the kingdom alive. Every decision you make shapes the cosmic order. Your father appears in your life like the sun itself, brilliant, distant, and absolutely essential. When he holds court, the entire world seems to hold its breath. Foreign ambassadors crawl on their bellies before his golden throne. Tribute flows from Nubia, Syria, and the far reaches of the empire. He wears the double crown of Upper and Lower Egypt. The cobra and vulture on his brow represent his power over life and death. You watch from behind pillars as he decides the fate of rebellious governors. Some are forgiven with divine mercy. Others are fed to crocodiles in the sacred lake. He notices you watching. He calls you forward with a gesture that commands thunder. You're 8 years old, barely reaching his knee, but his eyes hold the weight of eternity. He places a golden ankh in your small hands. Choose, he says, pointing to 3 captured Nubian chiefs. Grant life to one and learn mercy. Grant death to all and learn justice. Choose neither and learn nothing. Your hands shake as you raise the ankh. The symbol feels heavier than the pyramids themselves. The men before you chant prayers in languages that predate writing. But you understand their desperation. You understand that this moment will echo through both worlds. You point the ankh toward the oldest chief. Life, you whisper. Your father smiles like sunrise over the desert. From that day forward, your education becomes divine. You learn the secret names of gods, the rituals that keep Ma'at balanced, the words that can resurrect the dead or curse the living. Your father teaches you that pharaohs don't just rule people, they maintain cosmic order itself. You study papyrus scrolls covered in sacred mathematics. Each calculation represents the movement of stars and the rhythm of seasons. Every formula maintains the delicate balance between chaos and harmony. Your tutors are the keepers of mysteries that predate civilization. A priest of Thoth who remembers the first dynasty. A priestess of Isis who can speak directly with the dead. A scribe of Ra who calculates the exact moment of your future coronation. They teach you astronomy, medicine, architecture, and theology. But every lesson comes with the same underlying truth. You are responsible for everything. Every flood, every drought, every plague, every victory. If Egypt prospers, it's because you've pleased the gods. If Egypt suffers, it's because you've failed in your divine duty. By your 15th birthday, you've presided over 6 major religious festivals. You've blessed the annual flooding of the Nile. You've commissioned the building of temples that will stand for millennia. You've learned that being a god means carrying the prayers and curses of millions. Your first real test comes during a drought that threatens the kingdom. The Nile fails to flood for 2 consecutive years. Crops wither in fields that have been fertile since the beginning of time. People begin to whisper that the gods are displeased with the royal house. Your father summons you to the sacred chambers beneath the Great Pyramid. Ancient hieroglyphs glow in torchlight on walls older than memory. He shows you rituals that haven't been performed since the Old Kingdom. Blood sacrifices that can compel the gods to answer prayers. Sometimes, he says, Divinity requires sacrifice. The question is whether you'll sacrifice others or yourself. You choose to sacrifice yourself, not your life, but your innocence. You perform rituals that stain your soul with necessary darkness. You call upon powers that exact terrible prices. You make deals with entities that exist beyond good and evil. The rains come, the Nile floods, Egypt is saved. But you're no longer the same person who entered those chambers. Your father sees the change in your eyes. The weight of divine responsibility has settled on your shoulders. You're no longer just his son. You're his successor. Over the next decade, you learn to balance the demands of divinity with the needs of humanity. You commission great works that will outlast civilizations. Temples that pierce the sky. Tombs that preserve the dead for eternity. Statues that capture the essence of gods in stone. But you also learn to navigate the politics of immortals. Priests who claim to speak for different deities. Nobles who believe their bloodlines carry special favor. Military commanders who see divine kingship as a useful fiction. Your reputation spreads beyond Egypt's borders. Foreign kings send daughters as wives and tribute as prayers. Your name is carved in temples from Nubia to the Euphrates. Your image appears on coins that circulate across the known world. But divinity comes with isolation. Every person you meet sees you as either God or political opportunity. Every relationship is filtered through divine protocol. Every emotion is interpreted as cosmic significance. You can't simply grieve, be angry, or feel joy. Your emotions become state policy. Your moods determine national destiny. Your father ages, but gods aren't supposed to age. The priests work desperately to maintain the illusion of eternal youth. Makeup, lighting, strategic public appearances. But you see the truth in private moments. The divine pharaoh is still mortal flesh, still subject to time, pain, and death, still human beneath the golden mask. His mortality becomes Egypt's greatest secret. If the people learn that gods can die, the entire cosmic order might collapse. Your father summons you for the final transfer of divine authority. In chambers sealed since the first pharaoh, he reveals the ultimate truth. The gods aren't distant entities in the sky. They're forces that exist within the royal bloodline. Each pharaoh becomes a temporary vessel for eternal power. When one vessel fails, the power must transfer to another. The people need gods, he whispers with his dying breath. Whether gods exist or not doesn't matter. What matters is that the people believe. What matters is that someone carries the weight of their faith. What matters is that Egypt continues. His death transforms you in ways beyond succession. The funeral preparations take 70 days. His body is preserved with techniques that bridge life and death. Gold and jewels worth kingdoms are buried with him. Servants are sacrificed to accompany him to the afterlife. But the true transformation happens to you. Standing before his sarcophagus, wearing the double crown for the first time, you feel something change. Not just authority, but actual power. The whispers of gods become clear voices. The movement of stars becomes readable text. The flow of the Nile responds to your emotional state. Either you've become divine, or you've become perfectly insane. The distinction no longer matters. Your reign begins with challenges that test divine authority. Rebellions in distant provinces, invasions from desert tribes, plagues that defy medical understanding, economic crises that threaten the kingdom's stability. Each crisis requires both human wisdom and divine intervention. You learn to be politician and priest, military commander and spiritual guide, judge and prophet, king and god. Your success comes from understanding that people need both. They need practical leadership that solves real problems. But they also need divine assurance that their suffering has meaning, that their lives matter to forces greater than themselves, that death isn't the end of existence. You provide both, but the cost is enormous. Every public appearance requires perfect performance. Every decision must consider cosmic implications. Every word becomes scripture that will be studied for generations. You marry multiple wives to ensure divine succession, not for love, but for the continuation of godly bloodline. Your children are born into the same golden cage that raised you. They learn hieroglyphics before they can walk. They participate in religious ceremonies before they understand mortality. They carry the weight of divinity before they understand humanity. The cycle continues with mathematical precision. But something changes in your middle years. A foreign scholar arrives at court claiming to have traveled from distant lands. He speaks of other civilizations with different gods, different explanations for natural phenomena, different approaches to death and meaning. His ideas are blasphemous by Egyptian standards. Your priests demand his execution for insulting divine order, but his words plant seeds of doubt in your mind. What if the gods are just stories humans tell themselves? What if pharaohs are just politicians wearing religious masks? What if eternity is just a comforting lie to make mortality bearable? These thoughts are dangerous for someone whose authority depends on divine certainty. You banish the scholar, but can't banish his ideas. They grow in the quiet moments between royal duties. They whisper during religious ceremonies you've performed 1,000 times. They echo in the empty chambers of pyramids built for your own future death. But doubt is a luxury pharaohs can't afford. Too many people depend on your divine certainty. Too much of Egyptian civilization rests on the foundation of godly kingship. Too much human meaning is built on the promise of eternal life. You choose to continue the performance, not because you believe, but because others need to believe. You commission even grander temples, more elaborate religious festivals, more detailed preparations for your own divine afterlife. But privately, you begin preparing for the possibility that death is simply ending. The final crisis of your reign comes from an unexpected source. Your own son, heir to the throne, begins questioning divine authority, not privately, like you did, but publicly, in front of priests and people. He claims to have received revelations from different gods, messages that contradict traditional Egyptian theology. Visions that suggest pharaohs aren't divine incarnations but mortal servants. His rebellion isn't political, it's theological. And theological rebellion threatens the foundation of everything. You face an impossible choice: execute your son and preserve divine authority, or allow his ideas to spread and watch Egyptian civilization collapse. You choose a third option. You arrange for your son to experience a divine vision, using techniques learned in the deepest temple mysteries: drugs, lights, sounds, and psychological manipulation. You stage an encounter with the gods that confirms traditional beliefs. Your son emerges from the experience convinced of his divine nature. His rebellion ends, but something dies inside you, the last remnant of honest faith. You've become so committed to maintaining divine illusion that you've used sacred mysteries for political manipulation. You've become a fraud, even in your own spiritual practices. You rule for 30 more years, but they're years of magnificent emptiness. Great projects that showcase divine power, successful military campaigns that expand the kingdom, religious innovations that deepen popular faith. But personally, you feel increasingly hollow. A performer playing the role of God for audiences who need the performance? You die during the construction of your pyramid, not from illness or assassination, from exhaustion. The weight of carrying an entire civilization's spiritual needs simply becomes too much. Your funeral is the most elaborate in Egyptian history. Thousands of people line the Nile to watch your body transported to eternal rest. Priests perform rituals that take months to complete. Treasure beyond calculation is buried with you. Your pyramid becomes a wonder that will outlast empires. But in your final moments, you're not thinking about eternity. You're thinking about the foreign scholar whose questions you never answered. About the possibility that death is just ending. About whether the gods will be waiting or whether there's only silence. Your son becomes pharaoh and continues the performance. Your grandson after him. The dynasty you established rules for centuries. But the questions you carried in secret eventually surface. Later, pharaohs experiment with monotheism, religious reforms that challenge traditional beliefs, artistic innovations that humanize divine kingship. The seeds of doubt you planted in private eventually bloom in public policy. Egyptian civilization slowly evolves beyond the absolute divine monarchy you embodied. But that evolution takes millennia. Your immediate legacy is the preservation of a civilization built on the promise of eternal meaning. The continuation of a culture that gave millions of people purpose, identity, and hope. The maintenance of order in a chaotic world through the power of shared belief. Your pyramids still stand. Your name is still carved in temple walls. Your image still appears in museums around the world, but the divine kingship you represented has been reduced to historical curiosity. The gods you served have been replaced by different stories. The eternal order you maintained has given way to other forms of meaning. Yet something persists. The human need for purposes larger than individual existence. The desire to believe that death isn't final. The hope that suffering has meaning. The faith that someone, somewhere, cares about human destiny. You were born as the son of a living God. You became a living God yourself. You ruled an empire built on divine promise. You maintained cosmic order through human performance. And you discovered that the line between divine truth and necessary fiction is thinner than the edge of a papyrus scroll.